Hello everyone, and welcome to the recorded version of Rubik's Cube 101. My name is Parada, and I'll be your instructor. A little bit of background info about me. I'm a junior at Stanford studying engineering physics, and this is my 5th or 6th time teaching this course at Splash and Rainstorm. I hope you all are excited, because this is my first time teaching it virtually, and I know it's not as interactive as it would be on Zoom, but we can make the most of it. A little bit of logistics before we get into the course. I think it's best if you have the slides pulled up next to you as you are going through the walkthrough and following my hands, just so that you have an extra supplementary reference. Now with that, let me go ahead and set up my camera rig and we'll get going. Perfect. Okay, so a little bit of background info about the cube before we learn to solve it. The cube is constructed of 3 pieces. We have centers, edges, and corners. The center only has 1 sticker, edges have 2, and corners have 3. Now, the most important part of the cube, I think, are the centers. And that's because no matter how many times you turn the cube, you can feel free to go ahead and give yours a scramble as well. You'll notice, just staring at this white center, that it's never moving in relation to the other centers. And because of that, we're going to use our centers as reference points as we solve the cube. The reference points are as follows. The white center is always opposite of the yellow center. The green center is always opposite of the blue center, and the orange center is always opposite of the red center. And so you could kind of think of similar colors as being opposite each other, because white and yellow are pretty similar in color, same with blue and green, and orange and red. And this will hold true no matter how many times you turn the Rubik's Cube. We're always going to have that fixed representation. White opposite yellow, green opposite blue, and red opposite orange. Perfect. Now that we know how the cube works a little bit, let's go through the method we'll be using to solve it. The method we're going to use today is called the beginner's method, and it requires 8 steps total. I don't think we'll be able to get through all of them today. Hopefully we'll get through steps 1 through 4, and then you guys can hopefully be inspired to solve the rest on your own, using my slides as a reference. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email at rparada@stanford.edu. All right, now let me just go through a quick solve outlining the 8 steps in the beginner method, and then after we go through what a completed solve looks like, we'll dive into each step in further detail. Now this solve will be a little bit fast, but don't worry, we'll go into greater detail after the entire solve is completed. So the first step is the daisy. And the daisy looks like a yellow center surrounded by 4 white petals. After that, we're going to solve the white cross. And the white cross is similar to the daisy. The only difference is now we have a white center instead of a yellow center. After the white cross, we're going to solve the first layer. And the first layer is all 9 white stickers on the bottom, but also these 3 colors matching this center. So we have blue with blue, red with red, green with green, and orange with orange. This is 1 full layer solved. And the 4th step follows pretty logically after that. The 4th step is to solve the second layer. And so that will just look like this first layer completed, as we did in step 3, but also this second layer. And this is the goal for today, to get to this step. And the last 4 steps are to solve the last layer, which is the most complex. Again, just running through it pretty quickly. The 5th step is to solve the yellow cross. The 6th step is to solve the entire yellow side. And The seventh step is to get every single corner solved. And then the last step is just to solve the remaining edges, which then solves the entire cube. And there we have it. That's the beginner's method. 8 steps, going layer by layer, building from the bottom up. As a convention, we're going to hold white on the bottom and yellow on the top. If you want to follow along with my hands, you can choose this convention as well, or choose a different favorite colors as the top and the bottom. Just note that you will be having to mentally swap whenever I say white and yellow with the 2 colors of your choice. All right. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and give your cube a scramble, and we'll go through solving the cube one step at a time. All right, that looks pretty good to me. Now, the first step again is the white, or the daisy. And the daisy looks like a yellow center surrounded by 4 white petals, just like this. For this step, we only care about these edge pieces. So these colors, we can disregard them. They're not important. So how do we get the daisy? We know what it looks like, but what's the process to getting there? The easiest way to solve the daisy is to look for white petals that are on the left and the right sides of your cube. Again, as a convention, we're going to always hold yellow facing up and white facing down. So holding it like so, look at your cube and see if you can identify any white petals in either of these positions. Right now, I don't see any, so I'm just going to rotate my cube, again, preserving white on the bottom and yellow on top until I see white petals. And here we go. I've found 2 white petals. And the reason these are really easy to get onto the top is because they're just 1 move away. Any piece that's right here can be brought to the top layer next to this yellow center in just 1 move by moving either of these sides. And so just keep doing that. Keep looking for those easy pieces to insert. And if you find them, go ahead and add them to the daisy. Now for me, I have none left. And that means they're either going to be on the top or the bottom, or at the very bottom, next to the white center. So I'll go through the bottom case, or the very bottom case, because this is what I happen to have currently. If it's on the very bottom, note that you could bring it to the top by just moving this face 2 times. That brings whatever on the bottom to the top. But it could be the case that whatever's on the bottom, if you brought it to the top, it's going to undo some of your hard work. You may already have a white petal that's in that position. So if this happens, what you do is you simply rotate this top layer so that when you insert this last petal, you're not undoing any of your progress that you already made. To repeat that, if you have a piece on the bottom, and right now, if you bring it up, it's gonna undo some of your progress, you're gonna wanna note where this piece is going. So it's going right here. And then rotate the top so that you're inserting it into an unsolved slot. And this makes sure that you're not undoing any of the progress that you made. Just like that. But there are some other cases that you may have run into, and so I'll be sure to cover all of those right now. You may have a petal piece that is on the top or the bottom instead of the left or the right. And if this happens, what we can do is simply rotate this face that has the top or bottom white petal and turn that top or bottom white petal into a left or a right petal. So I'll just rotate it this way, and that made it a petal on the right side, which is easy to insert in 1 move. But again, similar to the last case, If I insert it right now, I'm going to be undoing progress that I already made. So what I should do is rotate this top face. That way when I bring this pedal up, I'm not undoing any of the progress I already have. And that's how to bring it to the top. Going through that again, if you have it on the top or the bottom, you can rotate it and then insert it to the top, but make sure that you're inserting in an unsolved slot. And the same holds for if it's on the bottom. You just do the same process. You rotate it so that it's either on the left or the right, make space for your last pedal to be inserted, and you simply insert it. I'll go through one more daisy step solve just for completion, and then we'll move on to step 2. Okay, so here we have our scrambled cube. Again, I suggest holding white facing down and yellow facing up. First thing we do is look for the easy edges to insert. I see one right here, so I'll go ahead and insert that into the daisy. And I see another one right here, but it's not a left or a right edge. So what I could do is rotate to turn it into a left or a right edge, and then bring that up to the top. And that happened to solve another one, which could be the case. You could get lucky and have a couple edges solved already, which is nice. Now, if you have 3 done, go ahead and look for your last pedal piece. Mine is right here. It could be on the bottom, it could be hiding in the back. Just be sure to scan the entire cube, but make sure that you're holding yellow up top and white on the bottom for the most part. And then once you identify your pedal piece, simply get it to a left or a right slot and then insert it to the top. Right now, if I insert it, it's going to eject a piece I already solved. So again, I rotate this top so that it inserts it into an unsolved slot. And that's the daisy. Feel free to pause, take a look at the slides for reference, and let's get going to step 2, which is the white cross. Now the white cross is a lot simpler than the daisy. The white cross is a pretty simple procedure. What we're gonna do is look at the other color in each of our daisy petals. So you can go ahead and start with the one that's facing in front of you. For me, that's this one. Now looking at this pedal piece, the color that I see next to white is orange. And this is really convenient. What you do is you identify that color, and you're gonna rotate the bottom 2 faces until you see the corresponding center, until you have a match. So right now, I have orange matching with the orange center, which is what I started with. Now once you find that match, you're gonna rotate that face 2 times to bring that pedal piece down to the bottom. And you repeat that for each of the pedals. So the next one I have is blue. Again, it already happens to be lined up. So I could just rotate this blue face 2 times, and now I have the second edge. My third pedal, next to white, is green. Right now it's not matching. So I'm gonna rotate these 2 faces until I see a match. There we go, I have green with green. And then once you find that match, you can rotate this face twice to bring it to the bottom. And you can rotate it twice clockwise or counterclockwise. It doesn't matter because both turns are 180 degrees and they have the same effect. And finally, my last pedal is red. So I rotate until I see red with red, and then I bring that to the bottom. And that's the second step. Pretty straightforward. Feel free to pause the video and rewind if you need a little extra clarification. I'll go through that process one more time pretty quickly, and then we'll move on to step 3. Okay, so let's do this case. We just finished the daisy, and we're repeating step 2 again. Starting with this edge, I see that next to white is green. So I'm going to rotate these bottom two until I see a match. There's my match. Then I could bring that piece to the bottom by rotating that green face twice. And then we just rinse and repeat. I have next to white is orange. Rotate until I see orange. And then bring that to the bottom. Next is blue. There's blue. And then I can bring that edge to the bottom. And finally, my last petal is red. So I could rotate twice. I have a match. And then I bring red to the bottom. And there we go. We have a white cross. Again, you can ignore the corners for this step. We're only focusing on the edges. But more than just these 4 pieces matching, we have the entire edge matching as well. We have the red sticker aligned with the red center, green with green, orange with orange, and blue with blue. And that's the key. That's the reason why we did that alignment process before bringing each edge down. Perfect. Now let's go on to step 3. Once again, the goal of step 3 is to solve the entire first layer. So that will look something like this. We have the entire white bottom complete. But more than that, we have orange with orange, blue with blue, red with red, and green with green. And to get an entire first layer from already having a white cross is actually not that difficult. And the reason for that is we already have our edges. All we need to do are insert the 4 corners. Now, how do we do that? The process for step 3 involves looking for white pieces on the top layer. And when I say top layer, I'm referring to these pieces all along here. This will be our bottom layer. This will be the second layer, or the middle layer. And this is the top layer. This very top we'll refer to as the ceiling. And it's important to make that distinction. There's a difference between the ceiling and pieces on the top layer. For this step, we want white stickers on the top layer. I have a couple. I have 1 right here and 2 over here. I'll go ahead and start with this white sticker. For this step, we'll be focusing on the corners. So once you identify a white corner, you're going to go ahead and look at the color that's next to the white corner. So similar to step 2, where we looked down, we're gonna look across. You wanna look at the color that's also on the top layer, not the color that's on the ceiling. So for this case, I have a white sticker, and next to it is blue. So that's the color that I'm gonna match with its corresponding center. These themes are pretty recurring. You're gonna identify a color and then rotate until you have a match with that color center. So I'm gonna rotate the cube until I have this diagonal match here. Next to white is blue, and I just aligned blue with blue. It could be the case that you have this diagonal alignment on the right side, but you can also have the alignment on the left side, which we'll see in just a bit. Now, once you aligned your color, you're going to perform your very first algorithm. And all that an algorithm is just a pre-recorded sequence of moves. And these moves do a certain task. And for us, that's going to be inserting one of these corners into the bottom layer. And that algorithm is up, across, down. It's highlighted and bolded in the slides because it's a very important algorithm that we'll use for multiple steps in solving the cube. Now, applying that to step 3, once you have your colors aligned, be sure that you're looking at those aligned colors. So I aligned blue with blue, and I'm staring directly at this blue face. And then you're going to perform that algorithm with the hand that those colors are aligned on. So for me, I have this diagonal right alignment, and so I'm going to use my right hand to perform the algorithm, which goes up, across, down. I'll go ahead and do that again. Up, across, down. The side that goes up is also the side that goes down. And depending on which hand you're using, the across is going to be this way, clockwise, if it's with your right hand. Or if you're doing it with your left hand, counterclockwise. That's up, across, down. Now all we do is just repeat that process until we have a full layer solved. You'll notice that we have one solved corner already. We also have a white sticker here, but this isn't solved yet because it's important that we have this alignment, and we don't have it in this case. So just keep going through and looking for white stickers on the top layer. There we go. There's my second one. This is on the ceiling, and that's a special case, which we'll handle after we do the regular cases. So I have a white sticker on the top layer, going through exactly what we did with the last corner. You look next to that white sticker, but also on the top layer. I see a green sticker, and then you're going to rotate the bottom two layers until you see green with green. And there we have it. I have green with green. We're ignoring all of the rest of these pieces. The only thing that we focus on are the color next to the white and the center. Once we have that alignment, take a note of which hand side it's on. For me, it's on my left hand side this time. And then once you're sure that you're looking at the color you aligned, go ahead and perform that algorithm. With my left hand, it's up, across, counterclockwise, and down. And there we go. I inserted the second corner. So then all we're gonna do is repeat that process for the rest of the stickers. I already found my third corner. Next to the white corner is green, which already happens to be aligned. Very convenient. So what we could do is take a note of which hand side it's on. It's on my right hand side. And I'm just gonna do that exact same algorithm. Up, across, down. And there we go, 3 out of 4. The final step, the final piece is right here. Next to white is blue. I'm gonna rotate until I see blue with blue. It's on my left-hand side, so I'm gonna do up, across, down with my left hand. And there we go. We solved the entire white side and also the first layer, because we have blue matching with blue, red with red, green with green, and orange with orange. That's all the regular cases that you'll encounter, but now let's go over special cases. It could be the case that you got very unlucky and you didn't have any white stickers on the top layer. The other places they're found are on the ceiling and on the bottom layer, but not in the correct position. First, I'll go through the ceiling case. If you have a sticker on the ceiling, what you want to do is align it so that it's directly above an unsolved slot. So you could sort of trace it down from the top to the bottom and make sure that this bottom color is not already solved. And this is the case because this sticker is not white, so we know this piece is not solved. Let's say you had it over here and you stumble upon this white edge on the ceiling, white corner. If you trace it down, this corner is solved. So that's not the correct positioning. We're gonna rotate until it's directly above an unsolved slot. Now once you do that, that's all the alignment you have to do. Then we're just gonna do the algorithm that we know and love, but with a slight modification. Instead of up, across, down, we're gonna throw in a second across. So it's gonna be up, across, down. And this is only for the ceiling case. I'm holding it on my right hand side because I see the white sticker is over here. So I could do that algorithm with my right hand. Alternatively, I could hold it on this side and do it with my left hand. It makes no difference as long as you have the alignment. The white sticker above an unsolved slot. So going through that special case again, we have up, across, across, down. And now you'll notice it didn't solve it, but it brought that yellow sticker from the ceiling to the top layer. And we already know how to solve pieces on the top layer, which is perfect. We look at the color next to white. We rotate until we see alignment. It's on my right hand side. So I'm going to do the regular algorithm, up, across, down, with my right hand. And that's special case 1, what to do when it's on the top layer. I'll go ahead and run that through one more time, just to drill it in. If you have a white sticker on the ceiling, what we need to do is make sure that it's directly above an unsolved slot. Right now it's not, so I can go ahead and rotate. Make sure you're rotating 2 layers, not just one, because that's going to throw off your alignment of your first layer. So go ahead and rotate until that white sticker is above an unsolved slot, and then you could do the modified algorithm. This time I'll hold it on my left hand side, and I'll do up, across, across, down, and then go ahead and solve that just like normal. Next to white is red. Rotate until you have red with red, and then up, across, down. And there we have it. Now the second special case is if you have a white sticker on the bottom, but not in the correct spot. So let's say you get here and you scan your top layer and you don't see any white stickers. And that could be because they're hiding on the bottom. You may think you're done, but always double check your bottom layer. Make sure that you see all white and that alignment that we talked about before you move on to step 4. In this case, I have the white sticker on the bottom, but it's not solved. And the nice thing about this case is all we do is the exact same algorithm. We're just going to do up, across, down. The golden rule, though, is to not look at the white sticker. Make sure whenever you do that algorithm, you're not staring directly at the white sticker. So I'm going to do it looking at this sticker. And this means that it's on my right hand side. So all I do is up, across, down. And that brought that white sticker from the bottom to the top layer, which we know how to solve. And there it is, first layer solved. Again, I'll go through that bottom layer case one more time. Let's say we have something like this. We have the top layer with no white stickers, our bottom's not yet done, and our last piece is on the bottom layer. Once you identify it, make sure that you're holding the cube so that you're not looking at this white sticker. I'm going to hold the cube this way. It's on my left hand side, so I'm going to do that exact same algorithm with my left hand. Up, across, down. Bringing this white sticker from the bottom to the top. And now I could just do the normal procedure to solve that piece. Look what's next to white, align that with its center, and then do up, across, down. And there we go. There's our first layer solved. Congrats on solving the entire first layer. This is a truly big accomplishment and the first milestone in solving the entire Rubik's Cube. I would take a breather here, make sure you have the first 3 steps really solid. If you're feeling bold, you can go ahead and scramble your cube and resolve it to this point before moving on to step 4. If you have any questions or clarifications, please look at the slides, and if you have any more questions, then go ahead and shoot me an email. All right, for those of you done taking your breather and feeling confident on step 4, let's go ahead and dive right into it. Again, the goal of step 4 is to solve the entire second layer, which will look a little something like this. So we retain the first layer that we solved, but also we have this entire second layer right here. Getting us back to step 3, you'll notice the only thing that we need to solve are 4 edge pieces to solve that second layer. We just need to solve each of those 4, and then we're done. We have a completed second layer. But this is not as easy as it seems. But the nice thing is, it relies a lot on what we learned in step 3. So we could apply that knowledge to solve the edge pieces in step 4. For this step, we're only going to focus on edge pieces. So no more dealing with the corners. We're back to focusing on these central pieces, just like steps 1 and 2. How do we do this? Again, the very first thing we're going to do is identify a piece to work with. And the criteria for this step is it has to be an edge without a yellow sticker. And we're going to look on the top layer for this. This edge is a good edge because neither of these stickers are yellow. Rotating, I can also use this one because neither of these stickers are yellow. And same thing here, and same thing here. So in this case, we're spoiled for choice. But it could be the case that we have something like this. So some stickers on the top are yellow. Like in this case, we can't start with this edge or with this edge because both of those edges have one yellow sticker. I could choose this edge to work with or this edge. And I'll go ahead and start with this one right here, green and red. Once you've identified the edge on the top layer that you're going to work with first, what you need to do is very similar to step 2. Look at the color that's on the top layer and then align that with its appropriate center. So for me, that's going to be this green piece, and I'm going to rotate until I see a green and green alignment. There we go. Once you have that alignment, now we're going to do a little bit of thinking and try to figure out where we want this edge to go. And what I mean by that is we're going to look at the 2 colors on this edge and then look at if it belongs right here or right here. So for me, I have green and red, and that doesn't go here because that would be green and orange, but rather it goes on this side because this is the intersection of the green and the red center. You can sort of see that this green and red edge belongs right here. Now, once you figure out which side it belongs on, for me, it's going to go on the left side. We're going to do something a little bit counterintuitive. We're going to rotate this top layer away from the side that we want it to go. So again, this edge should go on the left side, and because of that, I'm going to push it away to the right side. After you align it, look at where it should go and move it away from that intended side. Once you do that, make sure you're still looking at the colors that you originally lined up. And then on the side that you want it to go to, for me that's the left-hand side because that's where red and green belong, you're going to do the algorithm from step 3. Up, across, down. And there we go. It looks like we messed up our first layer, which we did, but we're going to solve that corner exactly like we did in step 3. And once we do that, we're also going to get that edge piece for free. I'll prove it to you. We just took out the corner, but we're going to put it back following the exact same procedure as step 3. Next to white is red. Rotate until I see red with red, and then just do the algorithm. Up, across, down. And there we go. Our corner is back in its correct spot, but also we have the green and the red edge solved as well. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to take these corners out one by one, but then when we put them back, they're also going to have that adjacent edge solved as well. I'll go through that again very slowly because I think this is probably the most difficult step. But once you solve this step, then you're more than halfway done to solving the cube. All right, so repeating that mini procedure for step 4 one more time. You look for edges on the top layer without yellow. So this edge doesn't work because that's a yellow sticker. This edge doesn't work, yellow sticker. This edge does work, and this edge does not work. So I can only use one edge. Now once you pick the edge that you're gonna work with, look at that top layer sticker and align it with the center. So I'm gonna rotate until I see green with green. Once you have that aligned, make sure you're looking at the green face, and then think about where this edge should go. I have green and orange, and that belongs on my right-hand side, because that's the green and orange side. Now once you identify which side it goes on, move the top layer away from where it should go. So I moved it left because I want it on the right-hand side. And then on that side that you want it to go to, do the algorithm from step 3. Up, across, down. That took the corner out, but we're gonna resolve it, just like step 3. Next to white is orange. Rotate until you see orange with orange. Once you have that aligned, make sure you're looking at the orange side, and then it's on my left-hand side, so I'm gonna do that algorithm again. Up, across, down. And there we go, 2 down, 2 to go. I have this green and orange edge, and also this green and red edge. Let's do it again. Can't work with this edge, it has a yellow sticker. Same with this one, same with this one. Here we go. Red and blue. Rotate the bottom 2 layers until you see red with red. Notate which side this should go on. I have red and blue. That belongs on my left-hand side. So I'm going to move the top layer away from where it should go. And then on the side that I want it to go to, I perform up, across, down. Again, I'm doing it with my left hand because that's the side that it wanted to go to. Once we do that, we solve our corner exactly as we do in step 3. Next to white is blue, then blue with blue, and then up, across, down. And there's 3 done. Now on to the last one. I look at the top layer, can't work with this edge, it has a yellow. Same with that. This one also has a yellow. And our 4th and final one also has a yellow. And this is a special case. We have no more non-yellow edges, but our second layer isn't completely solved. You'll notice our last slot has a flipped edge. And what we do when we have a flipped edge is we pretend that one of these yellow stickers actually belongs in here. And then when we solve that piece in there, that piece is going to pop out on the top layer. And then we could solve that exactly how we know to do it. And that's sort of the gist of all special cases. You do the thing that you know how to do once, and that sets it up into the normal case, and then you just do it again, as usual. So going through what that looks like, I'm pretending that this is orange and blue, or you could pretend it's blue and orange, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna move it away from where you want it to go. It's on my left-hand side, so I do up, across, down. And then next to white is orange, so I rotate that and solve it exactly like step 3. We have up, across, down. And there we go. You'll notice that some random yellow edge got inserted into the orange and blue slot. But if we look at the top, there's our orange and blue edge. So we just treat this like normal. We rotate until we see blue with blue and go through that procedure that we've done a million times at this point. We rotate away. On the side we want it to go to, we do up, across, down. And then solve this final corner, just like step 3. And there you have it. There's the entire second layer. Again, congrats on this accomplishment. It is a huge feat to get here, and you're almost done with solving the entire cube. I'll go ahead and run through a couple more special cases in case you happen to run into those. And they're all just a variation of the same thing. We have all yellow edges up top, but our second layer isn't completely solved yet. In the previous special case, we saw an edge flipped in place, but you can also have two edges swapped out of place. So this blue and orange belongs here, and this blue and this orange and green belongs where the blue and orange is. And the procedure is exactly the same. We're just gonna pretend that one of these yellow edges belongs in one of these two slots. I'll start with this one. So I'm pretending this is orange and blue. I'm gonna go through the steps. And that inserted the random yellow edge. But you'll notice now we have a good edge to work with. And so we could do that as normal. Green with green. This is green and orange, so I'm gonna move it away from this side. Up, across, down on that side, and solve this corner, just like step 3. And that solved the orange and green edge in the correct spot, and also gave us that orange and blue edge to be put in the right spot. There we go. Those are the first 2 layers. And that's all the special cases for this layer. So now we're officially done with step 4. And as I mentioned before, the last 4 steps are for solving the top layer. And that's a pretty big jump from going from the first 2 layers to the last layer. And the only reason it's a big jump is because we need to refer strictly on algorithms from this point onward. Some people like that better. It's more of a set structure to follow. And some people like that worse because they like the intuition of matching colors and, you know, seeing each piece solved one by one. And seeing as we have a little bit of extra time, I'll go through and teach you a little bit of the basics for learning these algorithms. And then you can look at the slides for exactly how to set up and perform those algorithms. So here's the interlude between steps 4 and 5. We're gonna learn a little bit about cube notation before we go onward. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and solve the cube completely to make it a little easier to learn cube notation. And what cube notation is just a way to write out which faces to turn. And it's pretty logical. There are 6 faces on the Rubik's Cube, and each one of them is given a letter. So if I'm holding it this way, green is going to be facing me, so that's going to be the front side. Blue is behind me, that's the back. The top is, well, it is the top, but we call it up. So this is the up side, this is the down side, and we have right and left. And so each of those are just abbreviated with the letter. So F means front, B means back, U for up, D for down, R for right, and L for left. Now, to determine if you turn that face clockwise or counterclockwise, we write F for a clockwise turn, or F prime, prime denoting counterclockwise. So running through that again, here's F prime, here's U prime. Again, you could just imagine the hands of a clock turning. This is R, and this is R prime. And that's because if you were to look at that face, that's the clockwise motion. So that's why going up here is a regular R and down is an R prime. You have to envision yourself looking at the cube at that angle. And L is this way, because if I were to look at the cube this way, this is clockwise. And L prime is this way. So you could sort of see the mirror symmetry here. R and L prime both go in the same direction. U and D prime both go in the same direction, because again, you have to envision looking at the cube from different angles. So there's the U prime, just looking at the clock. And if I were to look at the bottom, the clockwise would be that way, so that's the regular D, and then D prime is that way. Because if I were to envision a clock, this would be the counterclockwise rotation. And finally, you can add a 2 to any of the moves, and that just means move that face twice. So R2 would look something like this, U2 would look like this, and F2 would look like this. For the 2s, it doesn't matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise, because we have 180-degree rotation. And that's all you need to know about cube notation. Just get familiar with, each of the abbreviated letters and which way is clockwise and counterclockwise for each face. The tricky ones for me are B and D, but you pick them up pretty quickly. Running through them all one last time: F prime, U prime, R prime, L prime, D prime, B prime. As always, you can refer to the slides as a supplementary reference. They should have an image with each of those rotations and how to do them. And I would say you're equipped to handle cube notation and can learn the final 4 algorithms. I will go through the first of those 4 algorithms, and you can use the slides to learn the final 3. So the goal of the 5th step is to solve the yellow cross. To do that, what we want to do is perform an algorithm, but we need to hold the cube in the correct way. So for each of these last 4 steps, we have an algorithm to do and a setup to perform. So first, I'll teach you the algorithm. It doesn't really matter how you're holding the cube while you're learning the algorithm. I suggest just repeating those moves until you've ingrained it in your finger memory and it feels natural. You can do it basically without looking. If you look at the slide, you'll see the algorithm for step 5 is F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And a way you can remember that is fru-rough. Fru-rough. I call this the fru-rough algorithm. The first 3 moves are clockwise, and the final 3 moves are counterclockwise. So just going through each of those moves, we have F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And you'll notice it doesn't affect our progress that we've made so far. It only rearranges pieces on the top layer, preserving these bottom 2 layers as it should. So go ahead and run through that algorithm until it feels comfortable in your hands. F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. F, R, U, U prime, R prime, F prime. And you could chunk it however you think is the best for you to learn the algorithm. Some of you may notice that we have the first algorithm we learned, up, across, down, with our right hand embedded within this algorithm. You can think of it as an F, and then our up, across, down, and then we just end it with a U prime, F prime. Whatever's the best way for you to memorize the algorithm. Again, F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. Now once you have it, all we have to do is tailor it to the setup. And the setup is based on the pattern that you're looking at for the yellow edges. What we can have is a dot, which is just no yellow edges. We can have an L, which are 2 adjacent yellow edges. We can have a line. And then finally we can have the cross, which is the end of step 5. And the nice thing about it is it's a progression. So if you have a dot, perform the algorithm that we just learned, F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime, and then you'll get to the L case. You can hold the dot however you want because it's symmetric. It doesn't matter how you hold it, it's always going to look like a dot. For the L, what you need to remember is hold it so that it looks like a righty L. Or you can think of the yellow edges belonging in the 12 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions of a clock. Once you're holding it in the proper setup, so I'm looking at a righty L on top, or the 12 and the 9 hands, then you do that algorithm again. F, R, U, R prime, U prime, F prime. And that just takes you on the next step in the sequence, which is a line. You're always going to hold a line horizontally, never vertically. So I could hold it this way, or I could hold it this way, because both ways are a horizontal line. And then you do the same exact algorithm. And once you have a cross, that step is complete. So after you finish the first 2 layers, you could be anywhere along that sequence. You could see a dot, an L, a line, or the solved cross. Wherever you are in that sequence, simply perform that algorithm that we just learned to take you to the next step of that sequence. And once you get here, and you're looking at a yellow cross, you're nearly done solving the cube. And with that, that's all from me. Thank you all for watching this recording of Rubik's Cube 101, and I hope you guys are able to solve the cube on your own. Thanks for coming. See you later.